All right, hey folks, we're back with another episode of Positive Mischief. Today we have Dan Pierse. Dan is the design director at Fox Broadcasting. And Dan, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Matt. Appreciate it.
It's really cool to have you and get to learn about what you do and how you think creatively. So in true fashion, I'm going to get right into it. First question that I have for everybody that's consistent is, how would you describe your job if you were describing it to a 7-year-old or a kid?
Okay. So I had a chance to think about this. I've gone in loops of the best way to articulate this. And I thought of it, how I would explain it. And then I also thought about the feelings I had as a 7-year-old that kind of linked up to what I do now, that I didn't realize the two were linked. So I think I'll say I try to make people feel things with color, shapes, and motion.
I love that. I love that because that is something that I think that a 7-year-old would be able to understand and identify with very quickly.
Because it's like blue. Blue makes you feel something. Does it make you feel like a rainy day? Or does it make you feel like the Caribbean Ocean and everything is possible? So, and that's what I was thinking when I was younger, like colors and weirdly fonts would make me feel different ways. And I didn't know why or anything, but it did create emotions in me just by seeing them. So
that's awesome. But you know, it's funny you said blue. This is going to give me a chance to ask a question that I've been thinking for a long time. Why is blue the best color to design for TV? Right?
I'm sure it has something to do with like frequencies and stuff like that, because I know we have a lot of problems with red and yellow, but maybe what I was talking about there, that specific color has the widest range of emotions that you can pull from. I think it also feels good too. Blue just feels good when you see it. Like, it's funny, you can feel blue, which is a sadness thing, but also I think blue kind of feels good when you see it. You know, like the sky is blue, the ocean is blue, the Caribbean is blue. Like, maybe it's a familiar thing and it puts you at ease when you see it.
We've all been conditioned from birth to think that blue is nice.
Yeah, right. I like that.
That's so awesome. So in that description, how does that relate to your day job at Fox? This will be the one time we actually get into the specifics of it. If it comes up later, great. But like, how does that deal with what you do from day to day?
Well, so I've been there a while now, and I started as a designer and an animator, and just through experience and stuff like that, I've gone up into management now and essentially a creative director. And being in that position a little bit now has made me think about like what I'm actually doing here, because when I was designing and animating, I was running a lot on like instinct of like, how this feels good to me, so I'll do this. And then someone else would say, oh, maybe try this and this and this. And now I'm in the position of doing that guidance with other people. That's where the emotion thing comes into it. And I think because essentially we're marketing TV shows, and what's the best way to market something is you relate an emotion with the product. And that goes all across pretty much all marketing, no matter what you're trying to sell. And so now I'm approaching it in that way of like, what's the show about? What should we identify it with? What kind of feeling, what kind of like emotions, all of those things should be associated with the show. How are we trying to package and sell this show? Yeah. So that's kind of where my head's at now. I mean, I'm confident in all of the people that work for us. I know I'm going to get like great work, but I think the real challenge is to figure out where to take that to make sure that it's appropriate for what we're trying to sell.
Sure. Which I'm sure has its own challenges from day to day. But
yes, it does. It's a very, it can be often mercurial, if that's the right word, of like,
for it.
honestly, when I sit down in the morning, like I'll look at my calendar and I'll be like, I have these meetings today and I think it will be a predictable day. And then it almost never is a predictable day because, we're dealing with different departments. We're dealing with stuff that is way, way out of our control, and things just come down. And I guess that's another part I like the sort of like Tetris process of like, okay, I have all these different parts that I need to somehow assemble back into the most efficient way, be it resources of people, someone who's a specialist in something of like, we'll have to take that person from this, move them over to this, but then that's going to create a gap. And then this, and then another node comes in from a completely different thing. It's like, okay, well, that's not going to work anymore. Let's change this around. And as exhausting as that can be, it's kind of thrilling sometimes. And when it works out, the satisfaction that you get from that is pretty amazing.
So does that scratch your creative itch in a way? As you get out of the chair and into management more, do those challenges scratch that creative itch maybe in a different way?
Changing from an active like designer into a management position where essentially, like I'll still jump in now and then and do stuff, but essentially I'm not supposed to, and I'm supposed to.
Bad Dan.
What's that?
This is a bad Dan.
Yeah, no, totally. Well, I'm always like, well, there's no one open, so I guess I have to do it. But just trying to figure out that articulation of like the design, that's a creative thing for me. And especially when the artist does it and it's a success to them as well, that's really rewarding for me. I've had to let go a lot of the, I could do this, why don't I just do it? And now I'm trying to get my creative fulfillment from coming up with ideas, just general ideas, helping these people develop those ideas, inserting whatever suggestions that they have and creating a space where it's safe for them, where they can talk to me and we can develop it together, and then for them to execute it and it to be welcomed and enjoyed is really fulfilling for me. So I think I've had to shift my reward of like, dang, I just made the best logo and I'm really stoked with myself, to wow, all of this planning and this communication with this person, and now we have this thing that's a mix of both of ours. That's the rewarding part to me now.
That makes a lot of sense. And I identify with that quite a bit in doing the same thing, going from being in the chair to running a studio. Yeah. Every once in a while, I like to get my hands dirty. I have to get my hands dirty. I just can't help it. But there is something about being able to enjoy the process, enjoy coming up with the idea, seeing it through to the finish. That's different than actually like getting there and being hands-on and being dirty about it, or getting into the dirt about it.
Yeah. I mean, to be entirely honest, I had a hard time making that transition. And then when I let go of it, it made it a lot easier. And the type of reward, even though it changed, it was kind of more, because you're doing it with another person or people, and there's something about that community of getting to that goal together that's pretty special to me.
So when you talk about the people in the community, I assume you guys have a pretty big team of just like staff and freelancers.
Yeah. So
what's that like, managing that as you kind of come through from design?
Yeah, what was good is because I worked as an active artist, so I became friends with everybody and stuff like that. So then going up into the management position, it made it easy. We always had a great communication with each other and stuff like that. We have 19 artists right now. There's another design director. We have 2 now, and then we have a vice president Jesse Hallis, who's my buddy from way back, which makes it really great. And he was an artist as well.
Nice.
So we have that shorthand, which is good between all of us. And then we have really talented coordinators. We have four now that are almost traffic controllers of like all of this stuff.
Word for it, yeah.
I mean, we do thousands of deliverables and stuff like that. So they handle a lot of the logistics of it and relaying notes and back and forth and the communication to the artists. But there's a lot of stuff goes on. And as the broadcast, I work in the broadcast design. Mm-hmm. We have a key art, we have a digital department as well as promo. And the elements that we make go to these different departments. So not only do we need to supply all the graphics and the design for promo for AV, once that's all approved, that goes to digital, that goes to key art, that goes to all of these different things. So we produce a lot of different elements.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. How do vendors get tied into that process for you? Going from a designer who's kind of hands-on to now you're like, oh, I've got my own team and I have these other folks here that now I have to deal with them as well. And I don't even know who they are. At least you know who your own team is. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can imagine that is an interesting balance to figure out.
Yeah, well, like probably the first 6 months of being in this position, I was like, who are they? What do they do? It was just playing catch up because as an artist, we were totally separated and we were just in our thing. And it's a union staff division too, specifically with the broadcast design, that the artists are union. And the rest of everybody else is staff, and we were in 2 different buildings as well. So
wow, we
were kind of off and insular in ourselves, which frankly I think we enjoyed. But the catch up for me when I had to start communicating with the other groups and stuff like that, that took a while to get used to. And now we're all in the same building. We see each other every day, and we're trying to create a better workflow where everything is happening at the same time rather than getting to this milestone, that breaks off, that goes to that group, that goes to that group. So we can just have this efficient, and I know it's a buzzword, but like 360 campaign of everybody's just doing the same thing at the same time.
Yeah. And do you find that those processes, those, I guess we'll call them corporate needs, do you find that stifles creativity at all?
I think that's our job to make sure that doesn't happen, or at least minimize it as much as possible. Because the other thing is like, sometimes there's no negotiation. You're just like, okay, I have to do this. Yeah. And then there's other times about suggesting creative alternatives of like, okay, well, I see that this isn't a problem. Instead of shutting it down completely, maybe we could do it this way. And if it's, a solid creative solution, then sometimes they're open to it. So that's what I always try to do. But like I said, there's things that come down from the top and you're like, there's nothing I can do. Yes. I'll make it yellow.
Fine, we'll make the logo bigger.
Yeah, right.
Exactly. That's awesome.